Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Abhay, and in this video we are going to learn the GraphQL API from the scratch. So basically in this video we are going to create the GraphQL APIs. Then we are going to connect that GraphQL API with the React.js application, that is a front end. Then we will also deploy the GraphQL API to our Azure App Service. Then we will see like how we can connect the API with the Cosmos DB or a SQL DB to fetch the data. Okay, that and whatever the data we will fetch, we will show to our React application. Okay, so this is kind of a end-to-end demo. Okay, how API interact with the UI and how API is interacting with the database, and the API here is GraphQL API. Okay, if you don't know like what is API, then in simple word, uh, for an example, whenever like you are using any website or any application, like it can be a mobile application or a website or a desktop application, anything if you are using, and so whatever you are seeing on the screen, suppose if you load any website, and whatever you are seeing on the screen, that is a front end. Okay, so whatever you are able to see, that is kind of a front end. Okay, but that is not the full picture, right? Or like whenever you are uploading any other page, it is like taking some seconds to load the data, right? So basically what is happening in the system, that front end, your website is uh, calling the database, and in the database like your data is available. Okay, like whatever the data you wants to see, suppose there is one order data that is stored in the database somewhere in the cloud. So the front end is calling something to get the data. Okay, and that something is nothing but a API. Okay, so the basic definition of a API is, so API is a kind of a bridge between the front end and your database. Okay, there is multiple layer of the APIs. Okay, but this is just a simple definition. So the work of a API is just to transfer the data from the database, to process the data, and to pass to the front end. Okay, then how we can create the API, like there are two ways. The one is a REST API, and the other one is a GraphQL API. The REST API is more popular, okay, in the industry, but recently GraphQL API is new, and it is going to replace the REST API. Like many people say something like that. Okay, but yeah, GraphQL, it's an interesting API, and like many companies. Whenever like they are building something new, like instead of REST API, they are migrating towards the GraphQL API. Okay, because there are a lot of benefits, like when we are working with the GraphQL API. Okay, like there like don't have to manage much thing. We are going to see that those advantages. Okay, like why GraphQL API is more important than the REST API. Okay, so this is just a like overview, like what we are going to cover in this video. Okay, so let me give you that overview again. Like in this video, we are going to create one GraphQL API from the scratch, using the Visual Studio, and the package which we are going to use, HotChocolate. Okay, there is one NuGet package that we are going to use to create the GraphQL API. Okay, so that activity we are going to do from the scratch. Okay, and there is already I created a one React application. Okay, so what we will do in this video, we are going to connect that React application to our GraphQL API. Then whatever the API we are creating, that we are going to deploy to the Azure App Service. Okay, I'm going to show you like how we can deploy API or anything, like how we can deploy our application to the Azure App Service. Okay, that I am going to show you. Then how we can connect any kind of a API to our database. It can be SQL or Cosmos DB. We will see like which one we wants to connect first. Okay, and the overall connection, and I will show you the once we are ready with all these points, we are going to show the live website. Okay, like we will see some live website link. Okay, so that's the agenda of overall of this video. Okay, by the definition, what is GraphQL API? GraphQL API is a query language for the APIs that allow clients to request exactly the data they need from the server using a single endpoint. Okay, it might be possible like directly by learning the definition, like you won't get the idea, but if you know the REST API, what REST API do, whatever we are returning, like in the REST API there is some controller, and whatever the data controller is returning, that data, client means front end have to consume that data. Okay, if they are passing a lot of data, then front end have to collect that data. Okay, but in the GraphQL API, client has to decide what data I want. Okay, like front end has to decide what data I want, like what is the size of the data like they need. Okay, what are the columns they need. Okay, like whenever we are going to see the example, like that time, like you will understand more about like what I am talking about. But by the definition you can this is the simplest definition I have written down here, so you can just memorize it for now. Okay, but you will understand later when we are going to create the GraphQL API, or like we will when we are going to understand the difference between the GraphQL API and the REST API. Okay, even here, like I wrote it down, like GraphQL allows the client to choose what data should be written from the server. Okay, now let's understand the difference between the REST API versus the GraphQL API. If you already knew what is REST API, then you will understand this much better. Okay, if you don't know yet, like you don't know the REST API and you don't know the GraphQL API, anything, then you can skip this part. Okay, like whenever we are going to start the GraphQL API, like there you can consume. Okay, but the difference you can skip. Okay, because you will not get the idea if you don't know the REST API. Okay, so let's continue. In the REST API, like there are multiple endpoints. Okay, suppose for an example, in the REST API there are multiple controllers. Okay, suppose in the database there is a one table called users. Okay, there like we are storing all the users data. Like suppose in the Amazon, uh, there are a lot of users using the Amazon site. So in their database they are storing that data somewhere. Okay, all the user information. And similarly in the Amazon, like there is one order table. Okay, they store all the orders that is like ordered by the users. So they store some kind of a data in the database. Okay, like the user data is different and order data is different. So in the REST API, what you will do, like you will create two different controller, one for the users and one for the order. Okay, you and like how you can access that data, like the URL, then slash user slash orders. Okay, like if you know REST API, like you know like what I'm talking about. Okay, like there is multiple endpoints, because like suppose your website link is amazon.com, then amazon.com slash users, you will get the user data. And when you type amazon.com slash orders, that time like, you will get the order details. Then the second point is a fixed response. Fixed response means like whatever the data you passed from the API, like you collected the data for the users, suppose 10 users, and you passed to the front end. Okay, so that is a fixed response, like whatever the controller is deciding, that is a fixed. Okay, but in the GraphQL API, like there is a single endpoint. Okay, so we don't have to configure the multiple endpoints in the UI. Okay, then here like client choose response, like in the user, if in the user detail, like if they just want to see the username, not the other details like what is the user phone number or addresses, if they don't want such data, they can just type the username. Okay, like so at the client side, like they can decide okay what data they want. Okay, so it will not do the overfetching. Okay, so in the REST API, it might be possible there is a chance of overfetching. Okay, there are two concepts: overfetching and underfetching. Overfetching means like it might be possible like when API is returning lot of data, but UI don't want that much data. Okay, like suppose for an example, we have the order data. Okay, order data. There, like they have the order ID, order name, and order type. Okay, like there are lot of combinations. Okay, order type, order details, and order descriptions, order something. Okay, like that way, like suppose if they have the 20 different attributes. Okay, then in the REST API we have, like REST API, what will it will do, it will return all the 20 fields to the UI. Okay, and what UI need only order ID. Okay, it might be possible UI only need order ID, but UI don't have option to only consume the order ID. Like, oh, UI have to consume all the data, then they can filter, and then they can show in the UI. Okay, so at the uh, front end side, like they have to filter out the data. Okay, so it might be, that's an example of the overfetching. Okay, like overfetching means we get the data which we even don't require. Okay, something like that. So in the GraphQL we don't have that kind of a problem, because client is choosing like what response they want. If they just want the order ID, they will just receive the order ID. Okay, we will see like how that is possible in the GraphQL. Okay, but we will see. Okay, returns only required data. Single request can fetch related data. Okay, there multiple requests needed. Okay, this is also one point. Like suppose UI want user data as well, and UI want order data as well. So like they have to do a multiple calls. One call for the user and one call for the order. But in the GraphQL API, what they can do, in the single call, they can get the data. Okay, for the user as well, and for the orders as well. This we will see like how we can get the data. For an example, here in the REST API example, suppose like this is the endpoint. Okay, API slash users slash one means like first record. Okay, so like that way, like they have to get the user data, and similarly, like if they want to fetch the order data, like they have to write API slash order slash one, or 1 2 3 10 anything. Okay, so like that way, like they have to get the data. But in the REST API, if you see the response JSON, like it is returning the ID, it is returning the name, email, address, it is returning all the columns. Okay, then if the client only needs the name, all data is returned. Okay, suppose if your front end only require the name. Okay, it don't want the email address, email or address. Okay, or ID, like it don't want that data, but still they have to consume that data. Okay, then they have to just find out the name in each record. Okay, so this is kind of a issue with the REST API. But in the GraphQL API, what is possible, like in the GraphQL, like we are writing the query actually. Okay, so if we write the user and only name, if we just write it the name here. Okay, so in the response, what we will get only the name. If we want the name with the Gmail, then we can just write after this name and Gmail, then we will get the name with the Gmail. Okay, so whatever we are deciding in the query, that only that data we are getting in the response. Okay, so that's the biggest benefit of the GraphQL. Okay, so I hope like you understand what I am talking about. In the REST API, like in response we will receive all the details, but in the GraphQL we will receive only that details which is required by the front end. Okay, only requested data is returned. There are other benefits as well in the whenever we are writing the GraphQL API instead of REST API, that I feel whenever like GraphQL API is kind of a more simple way to write the API, because there we don't have to manually treat that as a API. Okay, because whenever you are writing the class and you are making a method, any methods, any functions in the .NET, okay, that is treated as a GraphQL endpoint. Okay, the GraphQL API. Okay, like you directly call that method as a query that we are going to see. Okay, like how the class and the method name will we can query. Okay. There are other advantage of the GraphQL query. If someone asks you in the interviews or something, like these are the points that you can mention, like it is having the single endpoint, fetch only required data, reduce overfetching, faster front end development because it is only returning the required data, not all the data. Okay, so it is reducing the overfetching. So overfetching sometimes take time. Okay, yeah, it will delay the application. Okay, but if overfetching is not there, it will make the front end faster. Then we have multiple data in a one request. Okay, in the one request we can get the multiple data. Okay, strongly typed schema. So these all are the advantages of the GraphQL. There are two concepts in the GraphQL API, which is query and the mutation. Similarly, like in the REST API, we have concepts like get, call, post call, put call. Okay, there are a lot of kind of a call in the REST API, but in the GraphQL API, we generally like we don't we only have two kind of calls. One is query and one is mutation. And what is the difference between these two? Whenever we are reading the data, we generally use the query, and whenever we are doing any write operation, insert, update, or delete, we are using the mutation. Okay. GraphQL endpoint, all GraphQL requests are handled through a single endpoint. Okay, like suppose your um, application like website is a amazon.com, then how you can fetch the GraphQL, just amazon.com/GraphQL. Okay, that's a single endpoint, and by the single endpoint and by passing the query, like you will get all the details. Okay. But in the REST API, you see like we have to do a /user/orders, like, so that is a different kind of a endpoints. This is the hot chocolate, and this is the NuGet package that we are going to use to create the GraphQL API. There are other packages as well. Okay, like there is one GraphQL dotnet package that is also being used in the industry to create the GraphQL API. But hot chocolate is a more popular uh, package, okay, that generally people use, and this is also modern way to use. Okay, like it is more simple way to use. Okay, so I recommend you to use the hot chocolate whenever you are building any project or something. Okay, instead of that GraphQL.net. Okay, because hot chocolate is much more easier to implement in the .net, and both the package are open source and okay and free, so you don't have to worry about that. Technology used in this video, I am going to use the ASP.NET Core MT project. Okay, like whenever in the Visual Studio we are going to create one project now, so that project we are going to use. Then the hot package NuGet GraphQL is a like API name, and then the React JS application we are going to use for the front end, and the Apollo client we will use, or just a fetch. There is one fetch in the front end to just call the API. Okay, that we are going to use. Then we are going to use the Azure App Service to deploy our application, both front end and the back end. Okay, I am going to show you like how we can deploy both the applications. Okay, to the Azure server, and once we deploy that in the Azure App Service, we will get one endpoint. Okay, so by clicking on the endpoint, like we will get just a URL, and there like we will see our live website. Then we are going to use one of these SQL DB or Cosmos DB. I didn't decided this yet. Okay, but maybe I will use the Cosmos DB because that is having no SQL data, and that is much easier easy to maintain. Okay, instead of writing the table schema and all. Demo flow, like I'm going to create first GraphQL API, then I will going to create the query, then in the mutation, then we will connect that with the React JS application, then we will deploy it to the Azure App Service. Okay, after this flow, like we are going to connect with the SQL or Cosmos DB, but this is the flow that we are going to discuss in the next video. Okay, in this video, just the overview I give you. Okay, like what is GraphQL and the difference between the REST API and the GraphQL API. Okay, but in the next video we are going to create the GraphQL API from the scratch. Okay, I like from the scratch, like if you don't know like how to create any project or how to create any API. Okay, so you will learn from that video, like, because from the basics, from the ground level, I'm going to create that GraphQL API. Okay. So anything else? Okay, nothing. Okay, thank you guys.